So this is an example, like these words, it means something.
Well, I noticed when you were saying something about Taiwan in this new Solomon Islands agreement, it didn't say anything about peaceful reunification anymore,
That's
right?
the other thing.
Oh, yeah.
That's the other thing. The peaceful reunification is gone. So
There's a loophole there, though. If you only call it reunification, then you could point out that because Taiwan was never part of the People's Republic of China, that reunification is actually technically not possible. And therefore, you're supporting something that's technically impossible, so you're not actually supporting the unification.
Okay, but from their point of view, they've already got Taiwan in their constitution as being part of their territory. So even though it never was, they believe it is. Just like we said, East Turkestan is gone pretty much, and Xinjiang is being used. And so exactly the whole point of PRC and Sierra Leone agreed to deepen their comprehensive strategic cooperative partnership. Okay. Got it? And they issued this joint statement referring to Taiwan. The Sierra Leone, here's a new part too. The Sierra Leonean side reiterated its firm commitment to the One China principle. Remember, almost all the other countries before said policy. So now this principle, we know what that means. It's the China version of the principle, not the policy.
Right. So the One China policy, like from the U.S. perspective, is just that we simply recognize that the PRC believes it's the one true China, and that the ROC, Taiwan, believes it's the one true China. And our policy is simply to recognize that that's what they think.
Right.
As in sort of, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Right.
But when you go principle, then the principle is that
It's the
Taiwan
CCP
is
version.
part of
Yeah.
the PRC.
Right. So more and more countries are, and so China's more and more changing the terminology in these agreements they have all around the world to get rid of the China policy, but insert the One China principle. And they say, furthermore, recognizing that the government of the People's Republic of China is the sole legal government representing the whole of China, and Taiwan is an inalienable part of China's territory. The Sierra Leonean side firmly opposes any form of Taiwan independence or external interference in the internal affairs of China. What they're doing is they're setting up the case that if and when China invades, nobody, based on this wording, can say anything to counter it. Because if they do, they'll say, look, you signed this. You agreed with us, so what? Shut up.
I mean, imagine signing an agreement and then violating that agreement.
Wow, that would be cosmic, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the CCP wouldn't do that. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, regardless of that, like the issue is these countries are now becoming entwined with China, and so if they violate the agreement, China will be able to. We saw how they punish them. Yeah, we saw like the trade sanctions on Australia and Lithuania, Japan,
and a long time ago Japan, right?
Yeah.
And continuing with, just about any country that they are not happy with.
So this expanding network of agreements, whatever you want to call this gobbledygook, is getting these other countries around the world in bed with China. So then they become dependent on China, and then China has power over them.
And the economic tool is sort of over their head. So it's like a snake that's trying to kill its prey by choking it. So it wraps it around it, and they agreed to, okay, you guys are powerful, so we'll sign this agreement. And then they choke them a little more. We want you to sign this agreement that it says One China principle.
And Sierra Leone, do they care about the recognition of Taiwan? You know what I mean?
But it's all about the number of countries in the world, because that's the part of their propaganda, right? Is they say over 160 countries in the world, or whatever the number is, agree with our One China principle. And so they start getting this into all the documentation, and they also, like Angola, March of this year. Okay, they have the same thing, One China principle, in 15 March, and China is the sole legitimate, government of anything to do with China, and Taiwan's an inalienable part. But the interesting thing is they also add, they're starting to add these new phrases like Angola opposes any form of interference in China's internal affairs by external forces in any attempt to undermine China's sovereignty and territorial integrity. So if China believes that Taiwan's their territory, it's an internal affair, And so now they're also agreeing to oppose anybody who helps Taiwan. It's not just we recognize that Taiwan is part of China. It's actually another step where the government has to support China against anybody who interferes.
So before China makes a move to try and conquer Taiwan, they're trying to bring all of these countries under its sphere of influence, so that when the war happens, it won't be
it won't be Ukraine. It won't be Ukraine where the U.S. and NATO partners got a lot of countries to go against Russia. This is setting the foundation that all these countries in the world won't be able to, at least on paper, support anybody who helps Taiwan.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there was like, at first it was like you as this country have to oppose Taiwanese independence. Like you have to agree with all means that China will use to take Taiwan, and then now it's like, well, essentially this last one, it's like you have to, if the U.S. helps Taiwan, you have to be against the U.S. You have to oppose what the U.S. is doing.
And as you mentioned in the beginning, peaceful means is gone. Mm-hmm. There's no reference anymore to peaceful means.
Yeah, it was like I noticed the Solomon Islands. It was like all means, or like something like that. Like all, like the word "all" was in there, and I was like, okay, that's scary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is there a significance to the addition of Hong Kong, Xinjiang, Tibet, Xizang?
Well, I think in a sort of a sick psychological sense, China is showing that it's weak because they're thinking that they need to say that these areas are part of their territory. If they were sure that they were part of their territory, they wouldn't be listing it. Like we were talking in the beginning before the session started. It would be like the United States making all the countries around the world sign a document saying, we accept the United States as a country, and to include Alaska, California, Washington, Texas, maybe not Texas, but Louisiana, Florida, etc. I mean, that's how I think weak they are, because they have to put these areas of occupation that they've taken on their list, so that people, what they think is they're protecting those things, but what they're communicating to me is that those are areas that they're afraid of.
Because there has been so much international backlash against the genocide in Xinjiang, what happened in Hong Kong. There was the whole Free Tibet movement.
You mean East Turkestan?
East Turkestan, yeah.
See?
Well, no, I'm trying to get squat on that SEO search term.
Oh, okay.
So that's why. So when people look up Xinjiang,
I thought you were going to call up your agreement that you signed.
Oh yeah. Oh God, I'm already in violation. China won't give me any.
Yeah, the panda's gone.
The panda's gone now.
Yeah.
Now they'll just send you a big doll, a big panda doll.
I was so hoping to just
It'll be
saddle
a
up
dog,
the panda.
like that's painted to look like a panda.
I
You've
would
seen
accept
those,
that.
right?
I've seen those. Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as I can put a saddle on it and ride down Fifth Avenue.
I mean, if the dog's big enough, you probably could.
Yeah.